look at it is to look at the mandate that NSF has, collect people's money, invest it for them, make a return for them. That's what I think, conceptually it's all supposed to be about.
But the investment decision also becomes very...
Yes, that's why they have a board.
Yes.
Yes. And I don't think anybody should be blaming Byaragaba when you have a board. Everybody, I think, should be in the same boat. But I think the best way to look at it is to look at it from another aspect. And that is that in this particular case, what I see is that I see a situation where a bedroom discussion ends up spilling into the public. When you look at the minister's letter and you scrutinize it very well, discussions have been going on. I was even privy of meetings in Kapeka towards Christmas, back and forth meetings with Byaragaba and his teams and General Sali and all these. But you see, a discussion is quietly going on. Somebody has a genuine reason that, you have too much money. I mean, I think we can invest it here, PDM, and, commercialize it and invest it here and there. Maybe we can invest it, the best way to invest it is this way. And then somehow it appears like a discussion of that nature, which was in the bedroom, did not materialize. And now it is spilling into the public, and everything has now gone back to zero, where now the country and ordinary citizens who have actually over time experienced this problem of NSF being raided feel suspicious, and you can't blame Ugandans for feeling suspicious when politicians want to touch this fund, and for me, from that point, is where I see the problem of Uganda. One, the best way world over to protect provident funds is through safe investments. And I think that's what NSF has been doing. Investing in safe investments, financial instruments, for example, bonds and treasury bills and all these. But when someone comes and tells you that without following established mechanisms, for example, if the Ugandan government wanted to access all the money at NSF, there are known ways that everybody knows.
Now they can be able to
instruct Bank of Uganda to issue treasury bills and then collect the money.
And 78% of that is actually in government securities, treasury bills and bonds.
Put it in your consolidated fund and then access it and then use it the way you want. But I think there is a challenge here. Politics and financial management tend not to marry very, very well. And I think this is where the problem is, and Byaragaba finds himself in a catch-22 kind of situation. You realize that, and I think why everybody is agitated is that, given the past history, very, very bad history, Ugandans have forgiven people, I'm telling you. Crooks that have tried as much as possible to bring this fund down have been forgiven by Ugandans over time. And by 2009, when everything really had gone wrong, if you remember the saga of, what's the other thing? No, not in Pima. The one, what's the other? Temangaro? That's whatever. Yes, at that point, around 2008, 2009, a discussion went around that now I think this fund needs somebody from the corporate world to bring in proper financial management systems.
All right.
You stole.
I stole.
Yeah, he was eavesdropping and perusing through documents.
The appointment letter and I think Museveni would have really arrested him by that time. But I read the story, and 3 days later he appointed him managing director. And everybody was happy because Byaragaba had been very successful at Nile Bank, at Barclays Bank, and that now when you bring in a corporate sense around managing parastatals, things can happen, and you've seen them happen even at National Water and all these places. So he pulls this fund from around, I think, 3 trillion, if I can remember, to now 17, just a decade later. This is stellar performance. You just cannot understand why then we would have any contradiction. Why are we having a contradiction? Somebody has done a stellar performance, 3 trillion, 17 trillion. And at the same time, you, Minister, you're writing that such
a drop in performance from 32% in 2010 to 11% in 2022.
Everybody knows that performance everywhere, even including the NRM itself, has gone down from a number of years.
Okay.
I
want to hold you everywhere. Come back
so
to you.
Every sector is having challenges, including our own media houses, everywhere. So
NRM.
So what is the problem what is this that we don't understand that Biargaba has committed? I don't understand it.
Right. And that's what we want to get into.
And for us, I think, for me, this is what I think. Ultimately, he can do anything he wants. I think it is his end game, because I know over time when the NRM people want this money, it has always ended in tears for the managers, and that's what's going to happen.
I love that you picked that ending in tears. Mr. Renito, I'm going to come back.
Let's be honest here and say that the procedure, the means with which the state is using to access this money is unacceptable.
Thank you.
It's unacceptable to people. It's suspicious to people, because we are running a country where citizens are increasingly getting suspicious of every attempt by the state actors to deal with their affairs, because we can't trust them. We can't trust that even this money will actually do what it wants to do.
Yes.
So the safest way is allow Bank of Uganda to issue more treasury bills, more
and let the money go there, whether it performs or not.
Then whether it performs or not, we will blame Bank of Uganda.
Okay, we'll come back to you. Kwesi, I loved when Mr. Renito talked about a safe investment, but safe investment also has to have some bit of performance, because some economists are saying, look here, 78% of your money is in government securities and bonds, but government has a debt rollover, meaning there is a bit of performance on the government side, which is going to affect the much money that you've invested right there. And the excuse that you will give to this saver who would expect a little bit more of an interest is going to be the overall economic performance. What do you think is at the bottom of the problems in NSSF?
Well, first and foremost, a caveat. I'm not an investment expert, but like Rugendo said, with provident funds, the biggest thing you're looking at is not interest, because if it was interest, you would go into investment banking and things like that. But also world over, interest rates in certain markets are very low, in some cases, in developed countries even negative, meaning you lose money by saving. So if you have a provident fund that has been, whose lowest interest rate is 9%, and it has gone as high as 14%, I think it's a success story.
Okay.
The other way to look at provident funds, if you save 100 shillings today, the way NSSF or provident funds are supposed to work, if you save 100 shillings today, it's not true that NSSF is supposed to get that 100 shillings and then invest it in one or two things and then generate interest on that money, so that when you retire 10 years from now, you earn 200 shillings. The way pension funds work is, if there's a generation of workers today, they save for 25 years. By the time they retire, what they take out as their retirement are the savings. No, are the savings of the people who have entered the workforce. So the logic to provident funds is you keep expanding the base, because for as long as there are new people coming into the workforce, everyone is assured of money at the end of their retirement. And once you are assured of this, then you can start thinking of, as government, how can we better utilize this money to align it with our strategic objectives? Because I also understand where government is coming from, that the number of savers has stagnated, that in a country of 45 million people, we have a working population of perhaps 17 million, NSSF savers are only 1.4 million. Yeah. And of the 1.4 million, only 630,000 are saving monthly. That's a serious concern, because when those people reach retirement age, if we don't expand the base as with the young population that we have, we'll have so many people that are not covered by pensions in their old age, and that burden will now fall on government. So the best way to approach this would be that you work with the managers of the fund, but also the managers of the fund listen to the concerns of the political actors, But I feel in this case with the minister's letter, it was more like throwing out the, is it called throwing out the baby with the bathwaters? Because some of the allegations she made in that letter, many of them hearsay, just puts a lot of doubts around
But they have a bit
NSSF.
of connection to what the former minister had said.
Even if the current MD is the villain, with all the allegations surrounding the fund now and the suspicion, I don't think they've put the fund in a better position to hire a better manager than the current MD, because someone will question. What is it about the fund that David Chandi Jamon goes there and somehow he's the problem? Then the current gentleman, Richard Biarugaba, comes there and he's the problem. What guarantees do I have that if I come there, even if I've come from Merrill Lynch or whichever major investment bank, that I will also not end up in the same situation? Yeah. Ultimately, there are structural issues we have to deal with as a country, that for all the decent economic growth we've been talking about, there are certain things that just can't make sense. Because if the economy has been growing at, according to the president, an average of 7% for the last 30 years, how come workers in the formal sector who should be saving with the NSSF are only 1.4 million shilling, 1.4 million over 30 years?
Yeah. All right, thank you very much. Yes.
17 million.
We are coming back shortly after this break. We'll be starting with this.
I don't want to blame who. But if we wanted to understand the current crisis, as I say, I'm a journalist. I don't want to be attacking my colleagues all the time. There was a story, a case in the court of an SSF data person arraigned in the court after a South African saver who was working in Uganda, Air Uganda, came to draw his savings. He goes to NSSF and the money had been drawn. And the man made a noise. So NSSF had to come in and the person was arraigned in the court. Up to now he's on the run. The NSSF deputy managing director, who is now acting, went to court to testify. But it did not pick the attention of the media at all. Now, if you follow more, you find there are many of that of Muzungu. But for Ugandan case, for him was able to call embassies. And then there was a reaction. If it was a dismas in Kunda, they would have called him maybe Noop and Easy. But imagine a whole deputy MD testifying in court about a fraud
internal.
And then there's a lot more, that there were many savers, what they call redundant monies, and what gone,
Claimed, yeah.
under very good management.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying the media. Where were you? I'll give you an example.
As we take a break, we need to take a break and return with the same discussion.
To have the pension scandal in this country get to the fore, I went through a lot. Dr. Pius Bigrimana is my friend today. Out of being nosy, I told him, you man, under your nose money is going in billions. He said, just me out of his office. You're just a very cantankerous fellow. I said, but money is going, have evidence. No, not under me. Later he said, my brother, thank you. I didn't know. Okay. So why are we not watching? Lastly,
the investigation.
Even if we are a good performer, I want us not to take government as, of course government must be always put on the spot. But here, if NSSF is performing better, NSF is simply collecting money from workers. NSSF does not form companies. NSSF does not grow industries. It is the state that creates the environment for these industries to grow so that there are more workers and there are more savers.
And so there is the engagement of the state.
True.
Yes, if the state says, we need to grow it more, you should be alert.
All right. Let me hold you a little bit and take a very short break. We'll return with this very discussion, what is at the bottom. And I love that Kwesi as well did mention structural issues, that whichever MD has been there, there's been a sort of a scandal coming through. That and much more when we do return.
Data usage tips to improve your experience. 1. Disable auto downloads and turn off auto sync to minimize unmonitored usage. 2. Restrict background data and delete unused apps for a smooth browsing experience. 3. Do not share MiFi or phone passwords to prevent unauthorized usage. For more tips, visit www.consumer.co.ug.
It's Freaky Friday from Airtel. Buy or gift. Buy or give.
Get freaky too! Dial star 149 star 10 hash to load a Freaky Friday bundle for you to enjoy the best offers on voice and data.
To buy a bundle for friends and family, dial star 149 star 10 star 5 hash. Freaky Friday with Airtel. Buy or gift a bundle today. Dial star 149 star 10 hash to get started. Airtel, the smartphone network.
tutte ani agoba nawe ono yagoba ayo tata ayinza okufaayo ali bulungi wano
bakadde
kiki kino mutabadde nyonyo gye bali kuma weerabidde ekitata sekukulu etuusi nojjanga loosa
tekisoboka eyo tikiti ya nnyonyi maama naawe eno tikiti ya nnyonyi nedda banafe aba Africa One Tours and Travel bategeseyo okulamaga mu nsi entukuvu nimba kulya tikiti mugende mulambuleko
eno yesekukulu y'omwaka guno tufudde maama tugenda kulambula
mugenda kulambula
yesekukulu y'omwaka guno
Africa One Tours and Travel has organized a senior citizens tour to the Holy Land of Egypt and Israel from the 27th of March to the 8th of April 2023. The sites to be visited include Mount Sinai, River Jordan, Mount of Olives, Wailing Walls, the Red Sea, Sea of Galilee, Bethlehem, Nazareth, Dead Sea, Mount of Temptation, the Way of the Cross, Golgotha, and Jesus' tomb. The trip is an all-inclusive return air ticket, 5-star full board accommodation, travel insurance, visa fees and meals, entrance to all sites. Send your parent, grandparent, or senior citizen of your choice by booking with Africa One Tours and Travel. Or come to our offices, 2nd floor, Catherine House, Muyenga Tanki Road. Africa One Tours and Travel. Let the senior citizens walk in the footsteps of Jesus.
Home. Spacious.
All right, so we are back, and interesting conversations that always come through. I still do have my panel. Mr. Renito Rugendo is with me, the Director of Communications at Parliament, Mr. Chris Obore with me, Dismas Nkunda, and as well, I still do have Kwezi with me right here on the Morning Breeze. Still talking about the National Social Security Fund. While we went for the break, Kwezi raised a very important aspect, which I intended as well to pay attention to. Like we've seen, all the MDs, scandal-ridden, by the time they are getting out, is it a structural problem? Is it a political problem? Or do we need to open up? Because there was a point in time when we were talking about opening up the, savings sector, and particularly looking at such provident funds. Open up the market, let there be competition. And I'll come to you, Dismas.
I think we have ever had a conversation in which we asked, is if they opened the market, for example, would NSSF have, would people's investments, would people's saving, would it have been a better different? And I think that is the problem that we have with NSSF. NSSF is quasi an enforcement, because I remember when we were still at Monitor, when we started contributing to NSSF, we rebelled. We said, I remember myself and Peter were saying, no, it's forcing us to pay money, to save money when we don't want to save. We can save with someone else. So I would believe that if there's any other system in which you can say, I could have an alternative in which I can be able to save, and necessarily I get a better deal if they're giving me a better interest than the 9. Now this the last time I think we got 9.
Yes.
But it had always been around 11. So to that level, that then when you open it up, then you don't have this whole problem of everybody, like Arinit was saying, of everybody focusing on only one fund. There are other provident funds. There are others where you can do offshore, where you can put your money and you still be able to save. But we are forced under the law that as a person who is employed in Uganda, if you're employed by
the
private sector, you have to be able to save with the NSSF. But that's not the problem. For me, the problem is every single person who has been at the helm of NSSF, the structural problem that Kweza and yourself are speaking about is that how do they end? What is the end game of the people who have been at the helm of NSSF? Why is it that NSSF and the people who have been at its helm always have the end game becoming very difficult? In particular, if you look at my close friend, Jamwa, he ended up in prison.
Yes.
Now, we are having Byarugaba, and Byarugaba, what we are hearing from the minister, they may even have to investigate him because there are certain things that they feel that are not very clear about him. So in other words, there's some certain administrative, I don't know, and that one, we have never explained it, especially how it moved into, NSSF moved into the Ministry of Gender to be the ministry. I think I'm told that...
It's always been the Ministry of Gender, and of course with the amendment, and that's where the question is, did we lose a point?
Exactly.
Was everyone focusing on midterm access, and that is it?
Partly because everybody, I think most of the people thought that getting the midterm, and remember Mildred, when we had a conversation here and we interviewed Mr. Byarugaba was telling us that we asked him a question, that is it possible that if everybody asked for their midterm, would you get the money? Mr. Byarugaba told us, no,
yes,
we don't have the money. We asked him, but then where is the money? We give you the money every month. We contribute every month. He said, no, the money doesn't sit on the account of NSSF. We invest it. And I remember we even asked him and said, where do you invest? And he told us that actually we don't invest in Uganda. Much of the investment that we do of NSSF is done, most of it is in Nairobi, in the stock markets of Nairobi, in Kenya. So we're asking why. He said Kenya's economy is much more vibrant, which brings in the question that Chris Obore was asking. Is it that NSSF money is providing, is building an economy outside of the economy of Uganda, and hence the tenterhooks that has made the politicians and the technocrats in Uganda realize and say, we can invest that money in the economy of Uganda in order to increase and have a double, what do they call it? A multiple effect in terms of the people getting more jobs and therefore having more people saving with the fund.
Okay, thank you very much, Dismas. Let me come back to you, Kwezi. There is a select committee currently that Parliament is taking on the minister we've had, and it still takes us back to why is every exit scandalous for a managing director of National Social Security Fund?
I don't think any committee can save NSSF or any institution. I also think it's high time as Ugandans we did some soul searching, because what we deal with are symptoms of a much bigger malaise. One day it's Uganda Airlines, we spend the whole week discussing that. The next day it's NSSF, we spend the whole week discussing that. Let's say there was good management at NSSF that listened to the politicians, and we gave government of Uganda all this money that they need. Government's performance. Because one of the reasons Chris is saying they are looking at the NSSF fund is because borrowing has become increasingly expensive, but also quite difficult with the debt exposure it brings. But of the money that we've borrowed and put into government projects, the loan has matured, we're big men to deal with before we even discuss the symptoms of whether an institution like NSSF is managed or mismanaged, or Uganda Airlines or any other state institution. And this is where every Ugandan can play a role. You, myself, you don't have to necessarily be in government. Be the watchman. Don't wait for the media. Hold these public officials to account. The minister is raising those accusations that now we are finding out the MD is accused of this and that. If you did find out, why didn't you prosecute? That there are certain whistleblowers, they can only meet the president in person and tell them what. But the president is not a court of law. So these are serious challenges that I think we have to deal with as Ugandans.
All right, and Mr. Renitwe, I'm coming to you. What is the lasting solution? What needs to be, it may not be lasting, but what is that we need to touch to try and start doing the salvation process of a fund like NSSF? Because even when looking at the expenditures, I was trying to look at the expenditure where they have about 400 billion in terms of, wage expenditure. And there was a lot of discussion about if you equally just divided that amongst the 600 staff, that means each one is getting about 14 million shillings per month.
You see, I think and I agree, the first agree actually with Kwesi here, that whatever committee that you're going to set up in Parliament, where my friend here works, there's nothing that's going to come out of it. I don't know which committee report or recommendation has ever achieved anything in this country. Nothing. And when it comes to NSF, we miss the point. These committees and committee processes are just window dressing, forgetting the fact that the matter of NSF is not the money that is in NSF, is not the structure that NSF is, but it is the continuing fallout between one side, which is suspicious, and another one, which is also suspicious. Yes, Byaragaba and his team might not be saints, but also over time, evidence shows that also state actors are not saints. And this is the reason why this problem has been shrouded in secrecy. If government has good intentions about investing savers' money, why were these discussions shrouded in secrecy? Why are these backdoor discussions going on about a matter that is of public interest? If you really are coming with clean hands, I expect you to say, look here, I think the strategic focus of this fund in terms of running regional economies is wrong. We have a PDM here which we want to commercialize. We have an industrialization process going on. We want to do value addition. We want our people who must come out of poverty. We have so many entrepreneurs who cannot access money in commercial banks because money is expensive. Here we have our fund. Let's give it to them at 5%. And here we are. We come in clean hands. Give us views. Here is a platform. Here is a forum. Tell us how best can we as government access savers' money and give it to you. This is the whole point. And that's not what has happened. So what we are dealing with is not exactly the idea that we want. We want to stimulate the economy using this fund. What we are dealing with here is what has happened before. Politicians tend to fall out with the managers at NSSF over things that are internal, over probably spoils, over disagreement around how to utilize the money, or who has actually taken more than the other. And I think this is exactly what is happening, because if you dig deep, really, you clearly can't understand where the problem is. Why would Byaragaba stick to his guns when he knows these are powerful people? What has happened that we don't know?
More than meets the eye.
More than meets the eye. And I think, for me, the lasting solution would be two things. Number one, and I agree with Kwesi here, that Ugandans, please, this is just your last chance to save yourselves. The Baganda call it, this is your kamane. You need to really stick out and defend yourselves, because we can't trust anybody at this time with our money, because evidence shows that people have not got a good track record in manning our monies.
That's very true.
And that's one way. Listen,
that
is one way. We know Kwebereramu. That's one way around this fund, frankly speaking, because honestly,
we need to wind up.
Then the other one is, you know, the argument by the NRM since 1986 was that their government is a bad businessman. That's why they privatized every other state enterprise, or they invested themselves actually out of them. And so if you have a track record of failure at NSF over 2 decades, then the solution will be to liberalize. When you liberalize, then I will go to this Sukunda and save with him because I can trust him. Ugandans can't trust this government in terms of their money, but they have no choice. The law is clear that we must take all our money to NSF.
Thank you.
If the law allowed me to take it to Kwestabor, whom I trust, then I have no problem. You can go and deal with your Yaragaba the way you want. As long as my money is safe elsewhere. And I think, and for me, this is the silver lining right now. This discussion, this unending malaise at NSF and the current scandal, if it is there, is a good silver lining for us to start discussing the idea around liberalizing the pension sector. If that is what those that are in this discussion are intending to do, then I think they are going to win. The problem would be who would be the faces behind the
liberalization and the new pension sector. Thank you very much.
Would it be somebody I can trust? Or would it be some mafia somewhere who would want to also break up and start somewhere, and because they are using this opportunity to be able to create another provident fund somewhere, and then I put my money there or not? But I think the best way now, let's just liberalize, because we are after all a free market economy. Let me put my money elsewhere as long as the law can allow me.
Okay, thank you very much. To you, Mr. Chris Obore, we have a select committee of parliament, but what more can it change about this NSSF that has been scandal-laden for a period of time? No trust issues at all. There's so many trust issues, even with regard to the investments that are determined by the fund.
For those who may want to understand my frame of analysis, I inform you that I'm a statist. So whatever arguments I make, whatever discussion on public policy issues, affairs, I am a statist. I am for a strong state.
Yeah.
Some people will mistake that for, supporting government, as if there is anywhere in the world you live without a state and without a government. So any government deserves support as far as delivering services are concerned. I will start by a tweet I made one time about Elon Musk's dress. I said, Elon Musk is that a billionaire, but he could pass off as a T-boy at Twitter. But for us in Africa, the white man left us with a dress code without a public service mentality. We are the ones who are supposed to be smart. But we have had so many suits that it seems to be the emphasis to be seen as a good public servant. You must be dressing well, and there are even regulations for it. You must. But guys who have turned around organizations are freestylers, are decent, very decent this month. But they will tell you in public service, no.
You can't dress that way.
No. As if he puts on a jacket, he adds more brains.
Yes.
So we have not had a culture, a corporate governance culture that is focused. These are the issues. State. Even the NSSF we are talking, even your saving in NSSF is by the command of the state. Even the success of the NRM, meaning the NSSF, you could say it's state success because it's succeeding within a government framework. Now, the issues we are talking about are managerial, perhaps constipation. It is a culture we see when you access a certain level of income in Uganda, a certain level of running public visibility. I think we tend to imagine we are infallible.
Exactly.
We're infallible. And the society gives you that infallibility. And the problem we do, instead of being accepted for who you are, we tend to use the resources to maintain that infallibility. And that's why public offices are so enticing. that some people will think the moment you have reached retirement age, you are going to die. But this man retired long ago. As we were joining, he was retiring.
Okay.
He's still here younger than us in outlook.
How younger than
In outlook. In outlook. So what I'm saying, what I've learned in understanding governance, the apolitical and the political must have a consensus.
Okay.
Now, if for instance we said government not performing well, if we build the Entebbe Express Highway as an SSF, do you know how much money they're picking from us every day?
Whoops.
Who is taking them? The Chinese. So why didn't we build a road? Those structural issues now saying...
They nudged all the roads were built and the road tolls are corrected by their NSSF.
Thank you very much.
But now, but we're investing in Nairobi.
First, stop there. The problem is the mismatch. It's the mismatch in the way we run our affairs in this country. If the state came out say, please, we are open.
Someone
we're open
said
about
self-investment.
the best way
so
we
we're
can
maybe investing safely. We do not know.
We know because the discussion is not clear.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Because
how do you have this?
I'm actually not even being critical of General Sally here. How do you have a better discussion around how to commercialize PDM and just keep it under the carpet?
Okay.
Why?
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
So-
I'll give you 30 seconds to conclude.
The cure by those who have studied public administration and what, of course, philosophically, the cure is we need to improve our politicians. Yes. Because
Are they improvable?
listen, but what can you do? You have to improve. There's improvement every other day. Because under proper connection, that nexus requires that the political leaders, the leaders do the right things.
Thank you. Thank you.
Then the workers do things right. You get me? Now, because some leaders don't do the right things, the workers are not doing things right.
And
The workers want to become the leaders. You'll see a clash. A worker,
yes.
you assume what the leaders have decided is the right thing, then do as the leaders have decided.
Point driven, Chris. And when you talk about making our politicians better, the reason I said, and Dismas asked, are they even improvable? A very good question to pay attention to, but let's take a break and return with much more on the Media Roundtable.
So, this is where it all began. Those styles weren't working.
So we made something better.
And you didn't stop there.
We knew we weren't changing the world with our clothes, but the women who wear them might.
And you went from playing with dolls
To becoming a fashion powerhouse.
We see you great. Katukuyande ukusesamu with Absa Business Banking. Speak to us about how we can help you get it done. That's Africanacity. That's Absa.
Buying a Mercedes, Toyota, or Range Rover? Let Wild Navy make your dream car a reality by importing it directly from Japan. We offer cash and Stanbic Bank direct import financing of up to 80%, meaning you can secure your dream car with only a 20% deposit. We offer free pre-shipping car service, accident-free and mileage certificates for your peace of mind. Find us at Forest Mall Ugogo, Block A, ground floor, or call 0704 105 159. World Navy. Drive luxury.
And Martin Sankoto spills the ball, and just like that, self-destruct.
The new Star Times Uganda Premier League season is here.
Straight into the back of the net.
Fresh. Watch more live games featuring top signings and renewed rivalries.
He literally has just vindicated his coach.
Uganda's Ultimate Football League also returns to a whole new dedicated channel. Watch the Star Times Uganda Premier League on Sanyuka Pride. Brought to you by MTN, the official broadcast sponsor.
Pandora, this is our home. But the humans are returning. On December 16th, wherever we go, the motion picture of that. This family is our fortress. Of a generation arrives.
Dad, I'm a warrior like you.
Protect the people. Let's get it done. Avatar, The Way of Water. Rated PG-13.
Well, let's get back, gentlemen. It's conversations. They spill over and continue throughout the break until we get back. But thank you so much for staying with us. Get to us on social media at NBS TV, on Twitter, NBS Television on Facebook, and X Media Services on YouTube. We're live on Facebook, and I still have the gentlemen right here, Mr. Kwezi Tabaro, Dismas Nkunda, Chris Obore, together with Arinitwe Rugendo. There is a third name we got to know today, but that will be after baptism. At some point in time.
It is Latin.
It is
for
okay.
Thanks be to
We
God.
are not going to discuss Latin here. We are going to discuss something else. All right, ladies and gentlemen, in the parliament, it's also been a beehive of activity. Like I said, the new Auditor General's report was handed over 2022-2023, but the previous report, which mandatorily gives Parliament 6 months to discuss, has also not been done. And like I said, I think there is accountability backlog in the Parliament of Uganda. The Speaker said a value for money audit needs to be done, and outrightly, by the way, went ahead to reject the COSASA report on Uganda Airlines, saying that it was leaked. Where do we stand? Is Parliament, because COSASA had about 107 entities to pay attention to, and the Speaker said only 4 were paid attention to. And I want to start with you, Kwezi. Where are we at with this accountability backlog that we seem to be going into, but also another interesting discussion stemming from the leakage of reports, which has now caused, we would call disbandment of the COSASA report on the Uganda Airlines and the underperformance of accountability committees?
Well, I didn't know you would start with me, but Mildred, I addressed this in the last segment of the show, that all this you're dealing with symptoms, and I think if media is there to set the agenda, then we can't be functioning this way, because every week, whatever the Parliament says, that becomes the lead story, without necessarily looking at what is the story. The issues at Uganda Airlines were discussed for almost 3 months, and the report, at least the sections of it that I saw, had certain recommendations. How does the report leaking or not leaking change the facts that certain things did not go right at the airline? What I see is a game really being played by politicians, and we're aiding them in that and contributing to the drama. Because besides drama, what is there in the story about a report being leaked and the Speaker rejecting it?
But the Speaker also, away from just that, goes ahead to speak about the underperformance of accountability committees and says, we've given you all the money, but there is no value for money over the time.
Different committees, I think, handle different government entities, focus on different business. So you can't make an across-the-board comparison that just because another committee, PAC, did 8 or 9 reports and this other committee did this many reports, why have you done 6 in this time? Maybe in those 6 reports you looked at and scrutinized, the taxpayer has gotten more value for their money than in the other 8 or 9 that were just rubber stamps. I think we need better criteria for assessing the performance of parliamentary committees
Yes.
than just the number of reports they've dealt with in the year.
Yes. Produce. Okay, thank you very much. And Arenitwe, I would come to you. As looking at 6 months, a committee like COSASE has 107, and you have a discussion like Uganda Airlines that I do not know took whichever amount of time. Are we only looking at the quantitative, or would we go deeper into the qualitative analysis of performance of these accountability committees? Is it time that we probably changed from 6 months to another maybe 8 months or 10 months for scrutiny to be able to take place on the Auditor General's report?
I would not agree with your question, actually, because I think frankly speaking, if you're talking about 107, 17 or 7?
107. 107.
Yes.
Yes.
I think it's a whole lot of massive work, especially when you are looking at the kind of parliamentary structure that we have here, their own obligations in the constituencies. I don't know when they can have time in 6 months to finish all that amount of work.
The Speaker said they're playing to the gallery. That's
no,
what they're
but
doing.
I think both sides have a point. You know, I've always told you, and I'm very clear that I am conflicted when it comes to Parliament. He's my brother. He's also my sister. Tayob is my brother. It is sometimes I find it difficult.
Conflicted on personalities and
yes, personalities.
On what exactly
personalities because these fights in Parliament have always ended up with the persons themselves. If you look at the Namugans and the Speaker, and even this one, you see it's a battle between Senyonyi and the Speaker, because of the underlying undercurrents that
the Speaker said it should be
that cover these issues.
From that individuality.
The Speaker is right about the quantitative performance. Senyonyi and team seem to be right about the qualitative performance, and this is where the mismatch is. And so, I think I want to suggest that probably they need to be given more time, because the Auditor General's report is a very important document for anybody who wants to scrutinize how our affairs are being handled. And if the amount of work is huge, it means that points to the problem, the massive problem that we are facing as a country. If there's too much work to be scrutinized, then I think we are in trouble. We are in trouble because then we can't finish this. I mean, scrutinizing the problems that we have. There are too many. The country is actually sick, in my view, because then that's why you're having this problem. Because if 6 months cannot be enough to discuss, scrutinize, to audit our problems, that speaks to the general picture in the country, and so therefore we cannot continue. We can't really pinpoint the whole blame on a smaller committee for not performing quantitatively. It means that there's so much backlog, like you are saying, and so therefore you cannot blame anybody. And this happened also in over time in the judiciary. The judges would say, please, our problem is backlog. Our problem is backlog. And now I think there's some response there. The same thing in Parliament, because the corruption backlog in this country is so huge that no amount of time is enough to discuss, scrutinize it, and report back. But then again, what will be the best solution out of this, I think, in my view? The spat between the Speaker and the committee, in my view, was a bit unfortunate. I want to be honest with you, my brother, because if these are in-house issues, were there an attempt to probably summon the committee and have a discussion, you know, because the Speaker has always sent warnings. For example, there's a time she was very clear, I think in November, about ministers who are not reporting, giving ministerial statements and stuff like that, and everybody was in agreement with the Speaker here. But when it comes to the committees, where much of the work happens, and also getting to understand, you people, that also the political opposition has structural problems, structural challenges within which they operate. I think as a Speaker, it would have been more prudent to, speak to the leader of opposition and say, you people, you have 2 months to go. This and this is not happening. Instead of waiting for them to find themselves in a ditch and then you expose them publicly and say, shame on you, I think that kind of fallout isn't good for our politics and for our our multi-party dispensation
Okay.
where it is expressed in a place like Parliament.
Okay.
In my view, then, I think that wasn't necessary, but the Speaker is right. Performance is performance.
Like
if
you
you've
said,
given you
they're
money,
both right.
let's have. They are both right. They are both right. What is not right is what is happening in our
How it's
country,
being done.
which is unacceptable in our country.
Okay.
That we should be. Why should we generate a backlog for Parliament? Why don't we do our job as a state, as government? Why don't we serve our people? Why
As
don't
is
we do
expected.
things the right way, like we are saying?
Thank
So
you.
then there is no reason for the Senyonyis of this world to be ashamed or to shame us. And for me, that's where the discussion, I think, should go.
Thank you, Mr. Regender. Yes, I come to you, Chris.
For me again, I'm agree with Dale on the main aspects. But I also to tell you, when I talked about let's improve our politicians, mark my word, the solution is there. Otherwise, what you're saying, discussions, we live in a country where the president of a country meeting Dismas Nkunda means Dismas has been compromised.
Has eaten, that is the word.
Honorable Matthias Mpuga is in constant dialogue with the Speaker. I have been in some of those meetings. Mpuga has been compromised. If we are looking at politics like that, then we're not going anywhere. Where you want a leader of opposition to literally be adversaries. And they are serving, they are all officers of Parliament. Yes, they are all. But you would want them to be seen as you are a great person. Honorable Matthias Mpuga must be meeting Right Honorable Speaker and saying, you, what are you? Then they say, yeah. Is that how we build politics? So those discussions, we call them top-tier engagements. The law provides for it. What I'm seeing, what you're seeing is perhaps either a conceptual problem in our polity that now brings that, and then the desire for bravado. The public likes bravado. Who is able to do this? Who is able to hypnotize the public? Once you hypnotize the public out there, you're a great person, you're winning the vote. Otherwise, because that's a report, these things coming out is just a failure at that level. The Honorable Senator is very right to demand that I've done the job, let me see its end. But Deo, we have edited. When your reporter comes and saying, I want this story tomorrow, what would you do?
You find out.
You see the point?
Suspicious. There is always an interest around it.
That is it, it's a principle.
Because he was pushing for the Uganda Airlines report to be out from the time it was presented.
And you have had other stories you have submitted. You have never said, but you have come and said, you have to keep, editor, this one, let's run tomorrow.
Time bound.
We are taught in editing. If I say, okay, get it, first keep it there.
If a reporter comes with a story and tells you that, boss, this story has to run tomorrow, that story, you keep
shelve it.
You shelve it for some time.
It's also a principle in management. A document has come. First put it there. It is in public service. You must sign off a document when you are absolutely certain. Otherwise, your signature will go out and it brings you trouble.
So does the leaking make the documents null and
even
void?
the leaking is just a symptom. If I pick it crazy, sometimes we discuss symptoms.
Yes.
Maybe even if leakage becomes part of managing an organization, then there's a problem. You can even say, it is like in newspapers. If it has run in the other place,
it's no longer
an issue.
Maybe a brief. You get the point?
Correct.
It just happens. We should bring order. But my point is, as a polity, as a country, do we care about improvement of our politicians? We don't want. We have gone to hero worship, those who hypnotize through whatever language, through whatever means. Where are political mentors? If you are addressing Parliament, look at the prevailing circumstances. But you come out here, oh, that Anita, oh, that who. Hey, I hear those stories. But even the person talking has not even the capacity to run a basic nursery school, but is busy questioning someone running an arm of government. But then you say, okay, freedom of speech.
Because at least they can be able to see the inaccuracies there. They can be able to
freedom of speech. My point is,
Yes.
what is the cure?
Okay.
The cure is not in saying, you know that what it is. The cure is, how do we mentor leaders? Do we mentor leaders? Maybe you'll answer later. What happened? Because time will come, because of the nature of our polity, you will see people go, wow, because the recruiter is the voter. Wow, the voter, and they recruit Mildred. Let me use you so that Mildred has been a very good host, to be honest, here. I respect you, know that. Then when they elect you, before you know, Mildred has a task she has never been exposed to.
Yeah, yeah.
And
with no mentorship.
I know what you are saying.
You get the point? So each one of us,
and I wasn't mentored to that task.
When it comes to management of public institutions, there should be a mentoring process. There should be. Not that Mildred...
But I don't work in a silo. I have teams.
But once you become a leader, I told you, do the right things.
Thank you.
So that the workers do things right.
Thank you very much, Chris. And yes, I would come to you. And anyway, here is the thing. Is the time the problem? Is it that we're doing quantitative than qualitative, qualitative than quantitative? Where exactly is the problem?
But I think, Mildred, Chris makes a very good point, because we are totally different individuals, right? If, for example, and this comparison, Chris, you'll forgive me, but I'm going to use it. For example, I can't be able to compare, if I made an analysis of the speakers that we have of parliament. We had James Wapakabulo, we had Ayume, we had, various other Sekandi, we had Kadaga, and now we have
remember, there was Yoweri, there was Tigongo,
yes.
There was Mwindi. There are many.
There are many.
Who didn't even know the president was the speaker of parliament?
He was a speaker. Museveni was a speaker of parliament.
For 10 years, right?
Yes. But the point, so there was also the leaders of Kosasi. Very many. Different. I think even Anita Among was in the vice of and so different people come into play, into managing certain affairs in a certain period of time. We can't all be the same. And I think that's what Chris was referring to. You can have Mildred as the best host of this show, but when you become a member of parliament,
it's a totally different task.
Total different task of what you are doing. So the mentorship he's talking about is it possible that people can benchmark? We can be able to see or understand what others have done. I think I heard someone saying that the report that the Uganda Airlines report lacked in certain aspects. And therefore it had even to recruit and bring in other people, other members of other committees to bolster it, because it did not meet the other aspects of previous reports that had been made about such corporations that have gone through the same the same problems. So to that extent, just accepting and saying that there are certain things we can improve as people is the most important thing that can make us...
Not to think that it's witch hunting.
Exactly, not witch hunting. I think for me, that would make it much easier for us to be able to...
But also in just a minute, the truth is it the time aspect? 6 months, 107 agencies? And
but other agencies, other committees have done it in 6 months.
Okay. I think that's, we can just take back. Our time is really out.
Yeah, just to help. I don't want to shield Uganda Airlines. First of all, I was an advocate of it being started by the
Revamped,
state.
yes.
But how much do we understand about the intricacies of running an airline? If we understood that, even when Rugendo has messed it up, to what extent do we publicize his mess? Given that it is running, it's not just localized. It has international policy systems that impact on it.
I agree.
And sometimes it's like finding if you're a father and you're finding your young brother, your young son, coming out of a room of his elder brother and with his wife. Do you really go and tell your son that your brother was coming to you?
I love the
advising him
example
never
that
to do
you
it
make
again.
more scandalous.
Actually, one of the biggest challenges that, Chris, to answer you actually, you have a very good point that you are raising.
We
Just a
need to
moment.
go away, yes.
Just tell you something. One of the biggest problems we have in this country is the failure to agree around what is our national interest and what is not. And usually that's what causes the problem. And the other day, actually, civil aviation was celebrating, I think, is it 50 years or something. And we were there, they invited some of us, and then I put up my hand to speak, and I said, when it comes to communication, I have a problem with the Civil Aviation Authority. Why? You know, when there's a crisis at the airport,
that's when you come out.
Speaks differently. When there is Ebola, the Minister of Health is speaking, but it's not in tandem with what civil aviation wants, and therefore then flights are cancelled, and then tourism is collapsing. You know, everybody just wants to rush to say, you know, there's Ebola here, it has broken here, and people are dying, and pictures are all over the place. Why? Because I think what is lacking is, again, the whole idea of mentorship and agreeing on what is our common interest as a nation, and how would we project it out there. This doesn't happen even in countries.
And there's so many other scandals in other countries, but probably they're never put out as much because the country is looking. I love that example of your young son is coming out. But ladies and gentlemen, we have to go out of here. But let me first take you back to a bit of a sneak peek into what Nile Post is having and what you can be able to follow up. Of course, so many other stories. Let's look at this. nilepost.co.ug. Ugandans raise alarm over massive extortion at Entebbe Airport, and Civil Aviation Authority is speaking up. This exactly relates to what we have been discussing right here. Just hold it right there, Dale. Okay, National Unity Platform gaining political capital out of missing supporters, says a human rights body, that's a Uganda Human Rights Commission, which is accusing the opposition, NUP, of using the narrative of missing persons to just gain political capital. What more do we catch up on the Nile Post? The poor are majority victims of detention without trial. Yeah, this is very... Were you poor?
No, I've seen. I've interacted with them.
But I agree with the study.
Were you in detention? Yes, in Missouri. I know what is
Thank